don't see any evidence of a high-speed rail here. Maybe we can get somebody from Amtrak to talk to us and see what they have to say about it. They have the Metrolink here, which is the commuter train, runs up and down the coast here. But I don't see high-speed rail. I see a slow-speed rail, and I definitely see rail, but I don't see high-speed rail.
In 2000, Californians made more than 500 million trips between the state's different regions. By 2030, that number will double to nearly 1 billion. Demands on our roads, our airports, ever increasing as our population and economy grow.
With the passage of Proposition 1A in November 2008, California established itself as the leader for building America's first world-class, environmentally friendly transportation alternative for the 21st century. A truly high-speed system, rivaling the best-known systems already operating in 11 countries around the world. Traveling at speeds up to 220 miles per hour over an 800-mile route, it will whisk riders from downtown Los Angeles to downtown San Francisco in just over 2.5 hours.
California's high-speed train system will be the largest public works project undertaken in the state in 50 years. Building this state-of-the-art network will create more than 600,000 construction jobs and another 450,000 permanent jobs. Now, the authority is preparing detailed project-level environmental review reports for each individual section of the system. Those sections are San Francisco to San Jose, San Jose to Merced, Merced to Sacramento, Merced to Fresno, Fresno to Bakersfield, Bakersfield to Palmdale, Palmdale to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Anaheim, Los Angeles to San Diego via the Inland Empire. In addition, the authority and regional partners are pursuing a passenger rail improvement project in the Altamont corridor connecting Stockton and San Jose.
High-speed train systems are among the most sophisticated engineering projects in the world. To build the high-speed train route, California will draw on the expertise and experience of those who have already built other high-speed train systems. Building the bridges, tunnels, and track required for high-speed train travel will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Early benefits will be evident as existing conventional train corridors are upgraded with electrification, improved track, separated grades that eliminate crossings, and fail-safe automatic stop safety control systems.
As construction continues, California's first high-speed train will begin running on a designated test section. Engineers will fine-tune the many complex systems that make high-speed train travel the safest in the world. By 2020, passenger service will begin on the Anaheim-Los Angeles to San Francisco backbone of the system, a route of roughly 500 miles. The Merced to Sacramento and Los Angeles to San Diego sections will then come into service several years later, completing the entire 800-mile system.
The California High-Speed Rail Authority's Board of Directors, appointed by the governor and the legislature, is committed to managing the project at the highest level of fiscal accountability. An independent and qualified peer review committee will also review the planning, engineering, and financing of the California High-Speed Rail Authority's plans. Periodic audits will be performed by the state auditor.
California is on track to the future. Clean, electrically powered high-speed trains are the best means for meeting Californians' mobility demand in the 21st century and will put Californians at the forefront of the emerging green economy.
By providing unprecedented, safe, comfortable, environmentally sustainable travel from city center to city center, California is leading the way into America's future. The future begins now.
Maybe we can get somebody from Amtrak to talk to us, see what they have to say about it. You can't do it?
No,
Oh,
we had a
okay.
big problem with a New York guy, something about justice. No,
Oh, okay. Can I record myself while I'm talking to
you
you?
can record it yourself.
Oh, okay.
I can't be a part of it.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Hey, you don't
Appreciate it.
understand.
All right, so the folks at Amtrak are media shy, strict policy against speaking to anybody that's recording. So either that or he knew I was going to ask where the high-speed rail is. It's clearly not here. But that's okay, he was very nice. He just couldn't speak with us. So onward. I was in the middle of a video about the mismanagement of public funds and resources in California as part of my series of videos on the wildfires in February, when all of a sudden...
Good morning, I'm Kevin Kiley. I represent California's 3rd District. California's high-speed rail disaster is the worst public infrastructure failure in U.S. history. California's high-speed rail disaster is the worst public infrastructure failure in U.S. history. And that is why today's action by Secretary Duffy is so important. And it's why I have introduced legislation to cut off all federal funding for high-speed rail going forward. And this is a very important point. If we cut off federal funding, we kill the project, because the Rail Authority has said time and time again that they are reliant, their funding model is reliant on further federal funding. This ill-fated project is a blight on our landscape and an embarrassment to our state. But it's more than that. It symbolizes the decline of modern California under the current leadership.
I think have stood up for the taxpayers of California. And so we're here to talk about the California High-Speed Rail Project. So when originally conceived, the voters of California voted in Proposition 1A that they would have a high-speed rail from LA to San Francisco. It was going to be done by 2020, and it was going to cost $33 billion. And people were excited, they were thrilled, take people off the road, out of the air, put them on rail, move them quickly. Today, we are severely, no pun intended, off track. So as we sit here, we're now looking at a piece of the project that's going to go from Merced to Bakersfield. And that project, thus far, is going to cost the California taxpayer and the federal taxpayer, at best estimates, $33 to $35 billion. At best, that portion of the project is not going to be completed until 2033, 2035, way after this whole project was to be completed. The problem is California is still short $6.5 billion. California doesn't have the money to complete the project, even with the federal promises that were made by the last administration. So the question becomes, what do we do? Well, I can't make decisions for the great state of California, but we do have to be responsible for the tax dollars that are spent from the federal government. But this project, if completed 400 miles from LA to San Francisco, at best, it'll cost $106 billion. Now, most people will say that is a rosy estimate. There's no way it's going to be completed for $106 billion, which, just to do some simple math, that's 3 times the original proposal for how much this project would cost to build 400 miles of track. And so I think the question becomes, what should we do in California? What should we do in the federal government? I'm going to exercise my authority as the Secretary of Transportation. I'm going to direct the Federal Railroad Administration, or FRA, to initiate a compliance review of funding to the California High-Speed Rail Authority. This is going to help determine whether billions of dollars in taxpayer money should remain committed to California's high-speed rail. And we're going to look at whether California High-Speed Rail has actually complied with the agreements that they've signed with the federal government. And we can't just say we're going to give money and then not hold states accountable to how they spend that money. Are they spending it per the agreements that they've made with the federal government? And I think as we looked over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I think there's a demand by the American taxpayer to make sure that money is being spent well. And to make sure that the California voting population, the California taxpayer, understands, even though they may be excited about this project, the project's not going to happen. There is no timeline in which you're going to have a high-speed rail that goes from LA to San Francisco. That timeline does not exist. And the estimates
Okay, let's recap that.
Democrats.
Back in 2008, California voters passed Proposition 1A, promising a high-speed train from San Francisco to LA by 2020 at a cost of $33 billion. Now, the hope is to connect Merced to Bakersfield by 2030 to 2033, and the entire project is about $100 billion over budget.
This is a boondoggle.
I've ridden on rail probably more than all of you combined.
Back in December 2023, then President Joe Biden allocated about $4 billion to continue the project. On that day, I spoke via Zoom with former Governor Jerry Brown and former Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Biden likes trains.
We need these jobs.
Now, a different president with a very different view.
The worst overruns that there have ever been in the history of our country.
President Trump launching a, quote, compliance review to see if that $4 billion federal investment should go forward.
Is there any way you could see where you do want to spend the $4 billion and go forward with this, or is this sort of box checking to end the project?
What I see here is going to be a hard stretch to see how those promises were kept by how this money was spent.
The High-Speed Rail Authority wouldn't agree to an interview, but sent us this statement, quote, "We welcome this investigation and the opportunity to work with our federal partners. California's high-speed rail is 171 miles under active construction with over 50 major structures completed, 14,700 jobs created, and more than 880 small businesses engaged."
We spent all this money already. Is there anything we can get out of it? And what is your sort of vision for what high-speed rail in California could actually look like?
That's a great question for Gavin Newsom. What should you do with this project?
The governor also didn't agree to an interview on camera, but his team referred me to this.
Just finished a meeting with President Trump.
When the governor visited the White House in early February, he discussed high-speed rail with President Trump.
And then he actually, to his credit, has very detailed questions about what it is and what it isn't.
Republican Congressman Vince Vaughn says that money could then be spent on other things.
If you offered any American or any Californian the option of there's $128 billion, what would you prioritize? I guarantee you that this project would not be in the top 1,000 priorities.
Protesters are skeptical of the entire Trump administration.
We want to say no to a king and yes to high-speed rail.
This is something that will help people for generations, will help take vehicles off the road and help people have more options to get around California.
I have to slow this down and take a closer look at these quote-unquote protesters here. Backpacks, very clean, very well prepared. Some are in costumes. All are very well prepared with sound bites. It almost seems like these are cast members from a commercial or a movie or something like that. All right, where were we?
Many of those affected by the Palisades fire agree the response was mismanaged.
The real issue is why weren't the dams full? Now you have 1,000 firefighters not being able to respond. You have how many trucks, ladder trucks, ambulances, etc., not up to maintenance scratch because of the lost money that went to stupid places.
That's right. The lost money that went to stupid places.
California. Standing outside of Ford's Silicon Valley Innovation Center, Governor Gavin Newsom thanked the automaker and others for moving in a new zero emissions direction.
And we are on a mission to accelerate the electric adoption.
The governor wants the state to spend $10 billion over the next 5 years to invest in electric vehicles, including funds for trucks, buses, charging stations, and money to help low-income buyers purchase the cars. Lawmakers last year already approved about $4 billion for this purpose. Newsom is requesting an additional $6 billion. The plan is part of the governor's $37.6 billion total proposed climate action package that, in part, attempts to decrease the state's reliance on oil and gas.
California is on the tip of the spear in terms of the effects of climate change and extremes, but we also are in the leading edge of innovation, leading edge of addressing with a resilient mindset these anxieties, not just for the country, but for the globe.
Here is a live look at Los Angeles, where the temperature is currently in the mid-90s. And a heat wave is descending on California, prompting state officials to ask electric vehicle owners to refrain from charging their cars in hopes of avoiding power outages. But putting out this call just a week after unveiling plans to ban the sale of new gas-powered vehicles by the year 2035. So News Nation's Sloan Glass is live. And Sloan, can the state's power grid handle the eventual influx of all of these EVs?
Hopefully by the time that they have to, Nicole, but with this upcoming heat wave that is the most extensive the state and the West has seen so far this year, residents are being asked to conserve energy, and that includes not charging their cars from 4 to 9 p.m., a time where demand is high, but resources from solar power is low. The irony is that California is at the forefront of the push for electric vehicles. A week ago, the state passed a bill requiring 35% of new vehicles to produce zero emissions by 2026, increasing to 68% by 2030, and then 100% by 2035. And
some Tesla drivers learned the hard way about how cold weather impacts their battery life. This was the scene this morning at a charging station near 95th and Western in Evergreen Park. Drivers say some of the stations weren't working, and those that were taking a lot longer to charge.
I've been here for over 5 hours at this point, and I'm still have not got to charge my car. Charge it should take 45 minutes. It's taking 2 hours.
Too hot, too cold, too bad. Okay, what else is California really awesome at spending money on?
C-R-O-W-L-E-Y. And your title? Fire Chief, Los Angeles City Fire Department. Our first ever electric fire engine, 100% electric fire engine. We've never had this in the history of our department. It's here, going to be stationed in this fire station 82 in Hollywood, California. And we're really excited to put it into service.
What is different?
Meanwhile, across town, these fire engines and other emergency LA Fire Department vehicles sit dormant during the LA wildfires, waiting for parts and maintenance. I counted over 70 vehicles outside, though I'm not sure exactly how many vehicles were inside.
In 2024, Los Angeles found itself grappling with a startling 28% surge in homelessness, as the number of unhoused individuals swelled to a jaw-dropping 119,141. This represents a staggering 55% increase since 2013 and an alarming 41% jump in just 4 years. The 2023 point-in-time count from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development revealed that Los Angeles now tops the nation with the highest percentage of unsheltered homeless individuals. A staggering 59.9% of the homeless population lacks access to basic shelter, up 27% from 2020. This grim rise underscores the severity of the issue and the growing urgency to address it. The numbers paint a troubling picture of a city where homelessness is not only growing but becoming a long-term reality for far too many. Adding to this burden is the crisis of child homelessness. Nearly 21,000 children experience homelessness annually in Los Angeles, according to the city's Office of Homeless Youth. A figure that casts a heartbreaking shadow over the future of these vulnerable kids.
Spending. The Assembly Budget Subcommittee on Oversight and Accountability held this hearing on the state's homelessness efforts. The bulk of the hearing centered around the state's Homelessness Housing and Assistance Program grant funding, also known as HAP grants, which is the money the state sends to cities and counties to help with their homelessness response. Now, this hearing comes less than a month after a state audit found Newsom's administration over the last 5 years spent more than $20 billion on homelessness, but did not track the effectiveness of that money. Newsom's administration officials could not provide key data to show the HAP grant program is working. San Francisco Assemblyman Phil Ting absolutely grilled them.
Do we have anything from 2022?
Again, apologies.
Why is it taking so long? I mean, you're the one that said you're urgent. I don't know, maybe my sense of urgency is different from your sense of urgency.
We're working expeditiously.
What does that mean, though?
We're very short order. We'll have the...
What does short order mean?
We're working in the next several weeks to have a HAP annual report produced.
So why? I mean, you're coming to hearing today, and you can't tell us how many. We spend billions of dollars, and you can't tell us at all how many people we've helped.
Apologies, I don't have the information in front of me to share.
Do you have it in your office?
Again, we're working through data quality issues in order to finalize the report.
California Gavin Newsom is throwing almost $1 billion at the homeless crisis in California. The only problem is that the state has already spent almost $25 billion on that particular issue, and they've got nothing to show for it. Joining us now is California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, always great to have you. I want to get your reaction to this. Many would say Gavin Newsom just wastes money. He doesn't even see if there are any kinds of results, and now he's throwing more money at the problem. This is his problem.
When you've got a $72 billion shortfall in a state that theoretically requires a balanced budget, what's another billion? But I will say one thing. Under Gavin's leadership, our homeless have some of the newest tents you could imagine. But the problem is those tents are everywhere, not just in LA, but in virtually every city in California, and it's growing. Every time he throws more money at the problem, what he actually does is he makes us a more attractive place for homelessness. And the pictures you've got on the screen say it all. It is not sanitary, it is not smart, it is not sustainable. And yet this has been the action of this governor from day one.
Complicating the housing crisis is Los Angeles' high rate of refugee resettlement. As of 2023, the county's undocumented immigrant population was estimated at 839,700, a dramatic increase from just 16,000 in 1990 and 210,000 by 2005, according to Pew Research Center. Asylum seekers, often stuck in legal limbo with limited access to work and benefits, are especially vulnerable to homelessness. At the same time, Los Angeles continues to face challenges as one of the state's most crime-affected areas.
According to new numbers released by New York City, taxpayers there have spent $308 million on resources for illegal migrants since July 1st and are on track to spend around $10 billion over the next 3 years. Emma Withrow joining us now from the Fact Check team. And New York City, of course, is just one place.
Yeah, it is. It really does vary by the state. So I dug into the numbers and found some research done by the nonpartisan group of Federation for American Immigration Reform, also known as FAIR. They reported out of all 50 states, California spent the most on illegal immigrants by a long shot, coughing up around $22 billion in 2022. Texas is next in line, spending around $9 billion, and following Texas is Florida, New York, New Jersey, and Illinois.
The federal government provides funding for these states. Do we have any figure on how much illegal migrants are providing through taxes?
Yeah, they do. So I dug into the numbers on all of this. So according to FAIR, the federal government has spent around $66 billion. You can see that on your screen. But the states have spent around $115 billion, so quite a difference there. But it's important to note illegal immigrants have contributed about $31 billion billion through taxes. So the total fiscal burden on American taxpayers is about $150 billion.
Emma, thank you. Later on,
California has become the first state in the union to give health insurance to illegal immigrants. Under the new policy, all illegal immigrants will qualify for California's version of the federal Medicaid program, Medi-Cal. Previously, those in the country illegally were barred from receiving full coverage, save for emergency and pregnancy-related aid under certain conditions. Now, the move is expected to give around 700,000 illegal immigrants between 26 and 49 eligibility for full coverage.
I think one of the biggest impacts here is this pull factor that migrants that cross the southern border and even the northern border, they tend to go to states that offer a lot of public resources like healthcare. So in this situation, one of the things that I think we will see is that more will come to states like California, especially because crossing the border there is a lot easier than, let's say, in places like Texas, where we're seeing the governor there crack down on illegal crossings and allow his state authorities to go after it. I think that that has a big impact, and maybe some of the traffic going through Texas will be pushed through California by the cartels, and then we'll see a further explosion in addition to the 700,000 illegal immigrants that are going to be added to the healthcare coverage as the state has a burden right now of a growing budget deficit. They're taking on even more of these expenses due to this program.
Okay, so trains to nowhere, electric cars that cannot be charged when it's too hot or too cold. Homeless people get tents, open drug scene, and a polite title of unhoused. Immigration to California is fine, legal or not legal. Illegal immigrants in California get free health care paid for by you and me. Is anyone else getting free shit paid for by taxpayers?
California is unveiling big plans this morning for a more than $30 million overpass across one of LA County's busiest freeways. The bridge is designed for wild animals whose habitats are shrinking because of urban sprawl.
He is the most famous mountain lion in the world, ready for his close-up in this now iconic National Geographic photo. His name is P22, and he lives in the shadow of the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles' Griffith Park.
The Hollywood sign is here, downtown is there. How extraordinary is it that a mountain lion is roaming around here?
It's a testament to the health of the ecosystem here, but he ended up in this dead-end park. It's not ideal.
To get there, P22 had to navigate a maze of LA freeways.
Would you want to cross the 101 on foot? I wouldn't.
15 other mountain lions are now being tracked in the Los Angeles area, many first tagged as kittens. Adult males can roam 250 square miles to mate, but are now caged in by freeways.
Same, girl. Same. This is not political. This is basic financial management, and they are doing a very poor job at it for some reason. Water is the most precious resource of life. Look it up. Without water, we as human beings would die, and it would be rather quickly. Why is California, which is in a perpetual state of drought, dumping $200 billion of our tax dollars into these feel-good projects and not into water that we require for survival? And one more question for today. For those in charge of California's finances getting it wrong repeatedly, their spending appears wasteful, no adherence to budget, failure after failure, no accountability. How does this compare to the management of their own finances?
think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And over the mountain, the little engine went. We're going to get over that mountain. I have no doubt about it.
Governor Jerry Brown championed a high-speed rail that would connect Southern and Northern California despite cost overruns, lawsuits over land use, and a lack of private investment. Now that high-speed rail plan is being scaled back by new Governor Gavin Newsom.
Current project, as planned, would cost too much and respectfully take too long.
What Gavin Newsom has done is he's spit in Jerry Brown's eye. Newsom basically said, Jerry, this is your little choo-choo, and I can't afford to pay for your dream.
Columnist and fellow at Chapman University, Joel Kotkin, has been skeptical of California's high-speed rail for years and says the only reason Brown stuck with it was because it offered him a chance to have some sort of physical legacy.
Jerry Brown was the only reason why this thing hadn't been killed before. Gavin Newsom is looking at the future and saying, you know, we're going to have all sorts of fiscal issues. They're all things we want to do. And this is an absurdity.
The high-speed rail will now only stretch from Bakersfield to Merced.
And that's not going to be easy because there's just not a lot of money to be made between Bakersfield and Merced.
You know, this is the ultimate train to nowhere. Going from two places that don't have any particular relationship with each other. It's a part of the state where people actually drive. The vast majority of people drive. By the time you got to the station, you still have to drive. It's not like going from a place where people live because they can afford to a job center. There's no job center involved here. And here's the thing that really bothers me. The Central Valley has very serious economic problems. There is huge degrees of poverty, unemployment. Some of the poorest parts of the United States are in the Central Valley. And we're doing this kind of fancy choo-choo.
He says the high-speed rail was always a solution in search of